Welcome to the deep dive. You know the drill.
Yeah,
You send us sources on something you want explained, and we dive deep and pull out the essentials for you.
that's right. And today we're putting on our instructor hats, you could say.
We're tackling Clause 8 of ISO IEC 27003.2017.
The guidance standard for ISMS.
Exactly. And Clause 8 specifically is all about operation, how an information security management system actually works in practice.
Yeah, it's moving beyond the planning stages, the policies, and getting into the day-to-day doing of information security. Understanding this really gives you a practical view.
It's where the theory hits the ground, basically.
Pretty much. We'll break down the three main parts: 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3.
Okay, sounds good. Let's kick off with 8.1, Operational Planning and Control. What's the core idea here?
Well, fundamentally, 8.1 says an organization has to plan, implement, and crucially control the processes it needs to meet its security requirements and achieve its objectives.
So planning isn't enough. You need the implementation and the ongoing control.
Exactly. It's about making sure those security goals you've set actually translate into actions, and that those actions are being done consistently and correctly.
The standard mentions documented information being important here. Why is writing things down so vital? Does it just mean more paperwork?
Well, it can feel like that sometimes, but no, it's more fundamental. Think of it like having a clear set of instructions.
Okay.
If the process for, say, managing user access is documented, everyone does it the same way. It reduces errors, prevents people just making it up as they go along.
Which can lead to security holes.
Definitely. And it helps with training, consistency, knowledge transfer if someone leaves.
Yeah.
It gives you confidence the process is actually happening as intended.
Makes sense. Builds reliability.
Yeah.
Now, 8.1 also talks about managing changes both planned and, interestingly, the consequences of unintended changes. Why look at both?
Because change is constant, right? Organizations introduce new systems, update things, change how they work, plan changes, like rolling out new software. You need security built in from the start. You need to plan the security aspects before you flip the switch. Otherwise, you risk introducing vulnerabilities.
Like checking the new plumbing before you turn the water back on.
Exactly. But then you have unintended changes. Maybe a system fails unexpectedly, or a new vulnerability pops up out of the blue.
The surprises.
Yeah, the surprises. You need a process to react quickly, assess the impact, figure out what went wrong, fix it, and learn from it so it doesn't happen again. Ignoring either planned or unplanned changes is risky.
Got it. And what about outsourced processes? That seems really relevant today.
Hugely relevant. Clause 8.1 is clear. Even if a third party is doing work for you, the responsibility for your information security stays with you.
You can't just pass the buck.
Nope. You need to identify those outsourced activities that affect your security, clearly define what security measures the provider needs to meet, put it in the contract, ideally.
Right.
And then you have to monitor them, check they're actually doing what they promised. It's about ensuring your supply chain isn't your weak link.
Can you give some concrete examples of the types of processes covered by 8.1?
Sure. There are processes for running the ISMS itself, like management reviews, internal audits, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then you have processes that come straight out of your risk treatment plan. So if you decided to implement a specific control to reduce a risk, managing that control day-to-day falls under 8.1.
Like patching systems.
Yep, or running awareness training, managing backups, also reporting structures, incident reports, tracking security objectives, and maybe regular meetings to coordinate security stuff.
Let's take an example. Say a company wants to bring in a new cloud-based HR system. How does 8.1 apply?
Okay, good one. They need to plan that implementation with security. So define security requirements for the system with a cloud provider, configure it securely, set up access controls properly,
Right.
train staff on secure use, define data handling rules, and then monitor it ongoing. Check for issues, make sure it stays secure. Documenting those security steps throughout the process, that's 8.1 in action.
And what about an unintended change? Like a key security admin quits suddenly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under 8.1, you'd immediately review the consequences. What access did they have? Is critical knowledge gone? Then mitigation, revoke access, maybe reassign tasks quickly, step up training for someone else.
And to document all that.
And document the review, the actions taken, yes, to show you manage the fallout.
One more outsourcing payroll. What controls under 8.1?
You'd need the contract to spell out security requirements for handling that sensitive data, set up communication channels, maybe get regular security reports from them. You might audit them periodically or check their certs.
Well,
And if they change something or their security posture changes, you need to review the impact on you. It's an ongoing relationship management thing, really.
that definitely clarifies 8.1. It's about the structure of doing security.
Yeah.
So let's move to 8.2, information security risk assessment.
Right. So if 8.1 is about controlling the processes, 8.2 is about continuously checking the environment for dangers. It mandates performing risk assessments and keeping records of the results.
And this isn't just a one-time setup thing.
Absolutely not. That's key. It's an ongoing activity. You don't just check the foundations of a building once when it's built, right? You monitor it.
Yeah.
Same idea here. It needs to be part of your regular operations.
It links back to clause 6.1.2, which defines the risk assessment process itself. How does 8.2 build on that?
So 6.1.2 is where you establish your method, how you identify risks, analyze them, evaluate them, define your risk criteria like likelihood and impact scales, and your risk acceptance levels.
The how-to guide.
Exactly. Clause 8.2 is about actually using that established method repeatedly in the operational phase, doing the assessments regularly, or when things change significantly.
So what triggers these ongoing assessments? Is it just sticking to an annual schedule?
A schedule is important, yes.
Oh, great.
The standard suggests a broad assessment at least annually, but crucially, assessments should also be triggered by significant changes.
Such as?
Launching a major new service, adopting a significant new technology, maybe big organizational restructuring, even major shifts in the threat landscape, like a new type of prevalent attack.
And security incidents, too.
Definitely. A significant security incident is a massive trigger. It tells you something wasn't adequately protected or foreseen. You must reassess risks after a major incident to understand the root causes and prevent recurrence.
So if we had, say, a ransomware attack, or we decided to let everyone work remotely using new tools, both would demand a fresh risk assessment under 8.2.
Precisely. The ransomware attack shows existing controls failed or a risk was underestimated. The move to remote work introduces completely new potential vulnerabilities and threats associated with home networks, different devices, etc. Both need a focused risk assessment.
Got it. And again, documenting the results is required. What's the value of that documentation here in 8.2?
It's your evidence trail. It shows what risks you found, how you analyze them, the likelihood, the impact, and the basis for your decisions on how to handle them. This feeds directly into risk treatment, which is 8.3.
Ah, okay, the next step.
Yeah, and it also lets you track trends over time. Are your treatments working? Are new types of risks emerging? It's vital for evaluating performance and for continuous improvement.
It seems 8.2 is really about embedding that constant vigilance, that risk awareness, into the everyday running of the ISMS.
That's a great way to put it. Maintaining a proactive posture, constantly scanning the horizon, operationally speaking.
Okay, that leads us nicely into the final piece of Clause 8. 8.3, Information Security Risk Treatment.
Right. So you've planned your operations and controls in 8.1, you've assessed the risks in 8.2, and now 8.3 is about actually implementing the plan to deal with those risks.
Putting the fixes or mitigations in place.
Exactly. Clause 8.3 requires the organization to implement its risk treatment plan, the one developed based on 6.1.3 and updated via 8.2, and you guessed it, keep documented records of the results.
Documentation again. It seems to be a theme.
It is. It's all about demonstrating compliance and ensuring processes are followed. Here, it shows you actually did what you planned to do about the risks. And like assessment, treatment isn't a one-off either.
No, it's tightly coupled with assessment. The standard says risk treatment is applied and the plan updated whenever risk assessments are done. It's a cycle. Assess, plan treatment, implement treatment, reassess.
So that risk assessment from 8.2 identifies a vulnerability. 8.3 is where you patch the system or change a configuration or maybe formally accept the risk.
Precisely. The assessment flags the need. You refer back to your treatment process options from 6.1.3, select the best approach, update the plan, and then 8.3 is the actual execution of that plan, implementing the control, making the change.
What kind of records are we talking about for 8.3? What shows implementation?
It needs to be evidence the plan is being carried out. So records could include things like change management tickets showing a patch was applied, confirmation that new firewall rules are active, logs showing antivirus is updated, training attendance records.
Stuff that proves the action happened.
Exactly. Dates, who is responsible, maybe results of tests verifying the control works. It demonstrates you're actively managing the risk down.
And when does this treatment happen? Just after the big annual assessment.
No, it needs to be responsive. It happens after any risk assessment iteration scheduled or triggered. And importantly, 8.3 also covers situations where an existing treatment isn't working.
Ah, okay. So if a control isn't effective.
Right. If monitoring shows a control isn't reducing the risk like you expected, 8.3 implies you need to revisit it, reevaluate, and potentially implement a different or supplementary treatment. It's about ensuring effectiveness.
So if our web application firewall isn't blocking a new type of attack effectively, under 8.3, we'd need to investigate, maybe tweak the rules, or perhaps look at other controls.
Yes, exactly that. It drives the practical work of risk reduction and monitors its success. It's really the engine room for risk mitigation during operations.
Okay. So pulling it all together then, Clause 8 covering 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3 is really about translating the strategy and planning into actual real-world day-to-day security activities.
That sums it up perfectly. It's the operational core, planning and controlling your processes, continually assessing the changing risk landscape you operate in, and actively implementing treatments to manage those risks. It's the doing part.
For anyone listening, the main thing to grasp seems to be that Clause 8 provides the framework for how security happens on an ongoing basis. It's not just theory.
Precisely. It's the practical guidance for running the ISMS day in, day out, moving from spreadsheets and policies to actual operational reality.
This has been super helpful, really clarifying the operational heart of the ISMS. It really drives home that security isn't a project with an end date, is it?
No, definitely not. It's a continuous life cycle. Plan, do, check, act, as the broader management system model goes. Clause 8 is heavy on the go and check.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Clause 8 of ISO IEC 27003.2017. Hopefully that sheds some light on how organizations actually operationalize their security management.
And maybe a final thought for you listening. As you think about this structure, operational planning, continuous assessment, active treatment, consider how those ideas might apply elsewhere. Maybe managing risks in your own work or even personal projects. It's a surprisingly versatile way of thinking about managing uncertainty.
That's a great takeaway. Food for thought, definitely. And of course, if this has sparked your interest, do look deeper into the standard itself or other resources. There's always more detail. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.